All right, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another very dangerous episode of the Leaper Farmer Cigar Garage Talks. Yeah, from the video, a little bit of clickbait, but having some fun with it. We are in the garage shooting a dangerous video, and we're just making it worse. Before I get into that, what are we smoking? What are we drinking? The cigar, the Excalibur from Hoyo de Montanari. Let's go with that one. Hoyo de Montanari. Excalibur cigar. Again, one of those ones I got from the variety pack. Absolutely loving those mystery packs. They got good cigars in there. And it forces me to try stuff I probably never would have bought. This is a really dark cigar. Chances are I never would have bought it. The beer tonight from our buddies at Upper Hand Brewing. We have the Sugar Bush. It's a maple lager. I'm kind of excited about this. I'm kicking myself. I was at the store where I buy my beer. It's Elmer's, actually, in Escanaba. I'll give them a little love. Elmer's in Escanaba has a very extensive beer cave. You can buy a lot of singles. They bring in some very, I think it's called Mike's Beer Cave. I have to find the actual name of that one. Look at that. Let's give it a try. Oh yeah, that's good. It's got some maple flavor in there. They actually do use maple syrup to back sweeten their beer. I do know one of the guys who works there, and he was talking about this batch. They do a little bit of back sweetening. Pretty cool process, pretty cool idea. Kind of use that maple syrup at the end to help carbonate the beer, give it a little extra character, some flavor. They do use it in the fermentation. If you've never fermented maple syrup, I have. The flavor changes quite a bit. A lot of those flavonoids that are in there interact with the esters from the yeast. So it's hard to get a fermented product that's dry and tastes like maple still. Little nerd out for you there. What I was going to say is, as Elmer's picking up that beer, they also had, and it wasn't from Upper Hand Brewing, they had a cherry maple sugar spice. And as I walked away, I kind of checked out. I was like, oh man, I should have bought that. That actually sounds really good. That'd make, I think, some really good pork. Especially you're put in the smoker with maybe some cherry wood or some maple wood too. Really tasty. Anyway, I digress. As you kind of tell from the title, we are currently under a bad air advisory for the entire Upper Peninsula, most Lower Peninsula, Wisconsin, Minnesota. There is just a banger of a fire going on in Canada at the Boundary Waters area. So, of course, it did go into Minnesota, too. But we're getting hit with some horrendous smoke. Very, very dangerous. When you're looking at particulate matter, they go from zero particulates all the way up, well, only supposed to be into the 500s. But this fire has maxed out every scale. Calumet got 1620 or something. When I think about it, I'll try to put the picture up. I've been trying to do better with that. I'll try to put the picture of Calumet's air pollution level. We're currently at 166, which is unhealthy. We've been in the hazardous for the last couple of days. I actually contemplated not having a cigar, just because I have been out about doing some stuff outside. But we'll call this one. It's better for the spirit than it is for the body. Better for the soul, as they say. Just to give me a chance to relax and kind of unwind. So anyway, yeah. Figured it might be, since it's on topic, talking about these Canadian wildfires. I do have some insider trader information about why Canadian wildfires are so bad and cause us on the U.S. side so much trouble. So, as I mentioned before, I grew up actually around Houghton area, grew up around Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech is known now as an engineering university. What a lot of people don't know is, one, It was founded as a mining institute, a mining university. So you used to go there to learn mining. But they have amazing forestry and wildlife programs. The wildlife ones aren't as popular, but the forestry one is. Very popular program up there. They have a big forestry lab, which is not actually in a building. It's a huge forest where they do experiments, try to get trees to grow in different patterns, different ways. They actually have a couple of these experimental forests now. When I was growing up, they only had one. Michigan Tech did get famous, quote unquote, because ELF, the Earth Liberation Front, the terrorist group, tried to blow up the facilities while class was in session. Luckily, a custodian was doing some cleaning, noticed a door was not properly locked. It was locked, but wasn't properly locked. He did a little walk around, found a few backpacks filled with explosives. They were doing experiments on trees. They were looking at pre-coloring the tree, if I remember correctly, trying to make some designer lumber, especially for like lathes and people who do woodworking and whatnot. They're trying to breed trees that had different colored pulp on the inside through a variety of different means. ELF didn't like that. Pretty crazy. But anyway, because of tech and having the forestry program, I actually knew quite a few of the forestry professors, family friends, friends of my dad. My dad was an alumni from there. And they even talked about, they said, I don't know how the topic came up, but if you ever look at the back of books, especially older books, I think they got rid of it now. They used to have the U.S. price and the Canada price. Well, what they would say is that Canada tries to only source their books in Canada from the regenerative forests. So self-sustaining forests. For every tree they cut down, they plant two, so on and so forth. So if you were in Canada and you bought a book from outside of the U.S. or outside of Canada, you didn't know if it was part of this regenerative forest. So you had to pay $1 extra. That dollar then went to the regenerative forest program to plant more trees. I mean, a neat idea. In a perfect world, it'd be a great idea, but we don't live in a perfect world, and it's Canada. So that money, of course, did not go to forests and whatnot. Some did, some didn't. But by and large, their regenerative forestry program did really, really well. And the professor, I remember talking about how it does really great. They have forestry majors who are professionals who go in there, manage the forests. I do know one thing that brought this up is that my parents were looking at getting the property logged. The last time they had it logged, it got clear cut. So they were very nervous about getting their property logged. Well, this gentleman said, you really do want to get your property selectively logged or preventatively logged. So have the logger go in and they pull down, dead trees, diseased trees. They pull down underbrush, stuff that if wildfire started, your wildfire would not thrive on your property. It would actually save it if you did this selective cutting. So really neat. I got that night a lesson in forestry management. And the importance of selective cuts, the importance of actually harvesting timbers, and the importance sometimes of clear cutting timbers. There are times when seems cruel, but it's best to just chop all the trees down and let the ground start over. At the time, a lot of it was over my head. I did not understand it. But being that I was a curious little child, I committed a lot of it to memory. And then throughout the years, it kind of came up where I learned more about it. But yeah, the way to prevent forest fires is through proper logging. And there's sometimes a forest fire is a good thing, right? We can burn out some of the underbrush, but it'll leave the trees intact. And apparently Canada was really good on this until a certain prime minister got elected. And this certain prime minister was an environmental extremist. So he did not like the idea of cutting any trees out of the forest. Save all the trees, preserve the trees, kick loggers out. I think he even made logging illegal for a few years. In that time, you saw lumber prices. We get a lot of our lumber from Canada in the UP. So you saw lumber prices just go through the roof. We actually had a couple of lumber mills that had been shut down for 10, 15, 20 years. All of a sudden start back up. There was a plywood company in Kinross that opened its doors and started producing plywood again because Canada was charging so much and they could make it cheaper in the US finally. So this prime minister, I won't blast him, but do a little research. You'll know which one it is, the one that went all in on the environmental and carbon tax credits and whatnot. He actually would not let forest, and still to this day, the idea of having someone come in and do a selective cut or do a clear cut or the forest management is unheard of in Canada. Individuals would do it, but as far as the government sponsor it, nope, no money's going there. And this is what we're seeing. Forest fires that hit and they go out of control. Conditions are always primed in Canadian forests for them to go out of control because they don't allow selective cutting. And they've taken, let's let nature take care of nature. Which, I can respect that. I just sat through a tribal presentation about burning, about selective burning, and about how tribal members used to do burns. They used to burn parts of their forest land to try and promote stuff like blueberries. And their presentation was amazing. Prescribed burns, that's the name, prescribed burns of forest. I learned a lot. Yeah, you can do it right, but to just let it go uncontrolled, that's not so good. And that's Canada's standpoint. It actually has to threaten X amount of buildings before the Canadian government will allow their firefighters to go in and fight it. The U.S. has a very aggressive policy. We try to get forest fires out very, very quickly. So the fires on the Minnesota side, they're being attacked. The ones on Canada, let them burn. The only hope right now is that we have a wind shift. If the wind shifts, blows the fire back onto itself, it will go out really quick. But if we keep having these driving winds, there's not much left to stop it, and it will just keep burning and burning and burning, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing these uncontrolled burns. So what's the moral of the story? We were taught as kids, I was taught as a kid that logging's bad, clear cutting's bad, forestry's bad. We're for every tree you cut down, we're making more greenhouse gases. Cutting down trees is evil. I remember being taught that, see that on TV shows. Captain Planet, did a bunch of crap with that, about how horrible it was to even think about cutting down a tree. But like with many things in life, the truth is a little more complicated. It's not as easy as saying, no, you just don't cut down a tree. The more trees, the better. Well, turns out the more trees that are managed, the better. Could nature rebound on its own? Of course it will. But as humans, we need to weigh the human risk. And right now, the human risk is we have a lot of people dying of smoke inhalation over the next couple of weeks. Asthma attacks, your bronchitis diseases, your COPD, emphysema is going to be struck. These people are just going to be in the hospital in droves. You're going to have respiratory therapists, who won't sleep for 2 weeks coming up here real soon. So yes, will nature take care of itself? Yes. Are wildfires good for the environment? Yeah. I definitely after sitting through that class with the tribal partners, there's a lot of benefits. And I've learned about that too in other places where there are benefits to having woods burn. But uncontrolled is going to cause human risk. What's currently happening, we're having people get injured, we're having people going to die, shortened lifespans. And it's going to affect people who don't have the ability to, I built a couple of whole air filters. I build them every year. It's not just because of this wildfire. I build them, I rebuild them twice a year. Every 6 months, we rebuild a new air filter for our house. Because we don't have forced air, there's nothing really to filter out the dust. These things help. We have the ability to have air conditioning. We have the ability to, kind of sit put, but not everyone does. So, yeah, we need to be fighting these fires. We need to be controlling it. We need to care about it, honestly. So, I'm going to sit here and smoke my cigar, looking outside in the hazy air. I'm hoping that the wind shifts so these fires will go out. Hopefully you're staying smart and staying safe where you're at with this smoke condition. Remember, although it doesn't seem bad, it's a lot worse than you think it is. This particulate matter can block up your capillaries and your alveoli. Not a good thing. It'll cause a lot of respiratory problems, a lot of distress, and depending on how healthy you are, might institute you having a night stay in the hospital. So anyway, folks, with that in mind, stay safe out there. We'll see you in the next one.